Hello everyone, we are making this wood burn right here for another streamer by the name of PhuzzyBond, and honestly, I had really fun with this one, considering it's his face. Yes, he looks like this. He's a handsome devil. Highly recommend you guys check him out. He's an individual that is very Sea of Thieves orientated. He likes the pirating concept. However, he is an absolute amazing individual, wholesome community, and someone that I really think the streaming world and viewership should really get behind, because he's always positive, always has a great outlook on life and everything, and I was super happy to not only do this for him, but the fact that I've seen him grow the way that he's grown. I was there well before he even started streaming or making content, and the guy has just exploded, and I'm super proud of him. Now, today we're actually going to start reading some ghost stories, and because PhuzzyBond is very Sea of Thieves orientated, I decided I'm going to read a couple of stories that are pretty much boat related. So, it's the Carnival Conquest. It's surprising how many ghostly encounters people have on well-known cruise lines, especially the Carnival Conquest. The Conquest is a beautiful cruise ship whose maiden voyage was in 2002 from a port in New Orleans. Her French Impressionist style interior has a capacity of almost 3,000 passengers and 1,150 crew members. While the Carnival Conquest certainly doesn't have a disturbing history like many of the boats and ships to be discussed, it does have some downright fascinating encounters. A comforting spirit. In one mysterious story from the Carnival Conquest, a woman was feeling ill and decided to stay in her cabin rather than going to dinner with her husband. Instead, she lay down on the bed for a quick nap. She quickly fell asleep after he left, only to be awakened by a very gentle touch on her leg. Convinced it was her husband checking in on her, she smiled and went back to sleep without ever opening her eyes. After all, who else would be coming into her room and touching her leg without saying a word? When he did return from dinner, she casually asked him about it. "I didn't come back to the room until just now," he told her. The woman was surprised, but not distressed. She felt nothing threatening in the touch and thought perhaps it was a dream. The remainder of the cruise continued without incidents. In a fascinating twist, she and her husband attended a seance after returning from the cruise. The medium asked her if she had ever been on a cruise and whether anything strange happened to her. She replied in the affirmation, explaining to the medium about the experience of something gently touching her leg. The medium claimed she was in contact with a spirit that touched her. The spirit wanted to reassure the woman that she was no intent to frighten or disturb her, just to comfort her. Man in a trench coat. Imagine the experience of a young couple asleep with a few hours in their cabin when they suddenly awake at the same time. They looked at each other and then began to scan the room to find the source of what had awakened them. They quickly discovered it standing at the foot of the bed. In a relative darkness to the room, they were both able to make out a shape of a tall man, wearing a long dark trench coat. While that sight alone would be enough to disturb most of us, added to the fact that he was holding some type of weapon in his hand. The young man quickly reached for the lamp by the bed. In an instant, the room was flooded with light. The dark, threatening figure had quite literally disappeared into thin air. They searched every square inch of that room and verified the door and balcony were securely locked from the inside. There was no way a physical being could have left the cabin without them seeing him, nor was there any way someone could have made this way in. To make matters worse, they struggled with the sound of someone knocking on the balcony window on their cabin in the middle of the ocean, only to discover that there was no one there. The ghostly steward. They weren't the only couple to experience a phantom intruder in the Carnival Conquest. Another couple was comfortably at rest in their bed at night. The room was dark and everything was quiet, until they heard their cabin door open and close. "Did someone come in?" the woman called out as they both tried to see in the dark. As they sat up in bed, they heard the cabinet door open, followed by a safe door. By this time, the young man's eyes had adjusted to the darkness enough to barely make out the shape of a man standing in the room. As he squinted to see better, he could tell the man seemed to have a steward uniform. Aghast and shocked, he watched as the man put his hand in the safe and then turned to face the bed where the young couple sat, frightened out of their wits. In a split second, he pulled something out of the safe as he silently watched them. The young woman reached over to turn on the light, but for the instant the light filled the room, the intruder was gone. The cabinet door was still standing open, and so was the safe door. The balcony door was still secured, as was the door in their cabin, both locked from the inside. As a realization of the nature of the midnight intruder dawned on them, the couple said the hair on the back of their necks stood on end. Needless to say, their sleep was adversely affected for the remainder of the cruise. An invisible admirer. A woman was dressed for dinner one warm summer evening in her cabin, and she was admiring her reflection. She heard a male voice very discreetly say, "You look beautiful tonight." She quickly turned with a smile to thank her husband for the compliment, only to realize her husband was sitting on the balcony with the door shut. There was no one else in the room except her. The television was on, but it was turned to an all-music station. She finally decided she just heard someone's voice from the hallway. However, she was a little rattled because she had minor hearing problems and usually needed to have her people repeat things if they weren't near her. To think she could hear the phrase so clearly from out of the hall just didn't add up, but she decided to finish getting ready and just put the incident out of her mind. A few minutes later, she heard the same voice and the same phrase, "You look beautiful tonight." It seemed a bit closer this time, and it was without a doubt the same voice she heard before. She rushed to the balcony where her husband was still sitting, opening the door, and told him her experience. While he did believe her story, he hadn't heard a thing and was as puzzled as she. Conclusion. If you should ever have the opportunity to enjoy a cruise on the beautiful Carnival Conquest, don't worry about the ghosts. They seem friendly enough. If you don't mind midnight visits from mysterious specters, ghosts that love to pay compliments, and spirits that just want to make sure you are comforted. That is one of the chapters from The Haunting at Sea, Real Hauntings, Ships, Boats, Oceans, and Beaches. And I will be reading more of this book in future episodes to kind of go over some of these haunted locations, plus also many, many more, because I have a ton of stories to read. And this will be the kind of gist that I want to move forward with the channel. Doing wood burnings, not necessarily on streamers, but real more horror related stuff, and reading stories to you. So I hope you enjoyed that, and if you did enjoy that, please leave a like to the video, and leave a sub to the channel as it truly does help out. And like I said, if you do enjoy these, please let me know in the comments. I will be doing more horror related wood burns relatively soon. This is just merely to get used to the wood burning tool that I have. This is why I've been doing and offering my services to a couple of streamers for their portion. And I hope you guys enjoyed. Thank you so much. Let me know in the comments what you thought was a creepy story. What would you do if you woke up and you found an unknown being in your room, either stealing, comforting, or just standing by your bed with a weapon? That's not necessarily a comforting thought, but let me know in the comments what you guys enjoyed. And by leaving a comment, you could potentially get featured in my next video. Much love and appreciation to every single one of you, and thank you so much for watching. I'll let the video conclude by itself.